Hey everybody, I think I'm live. Give it a second and see. Hey everybody. No, I guess I am. There's my echo. All right. All right, I'm gonna just kind of get started and lay out the parts. See what we got. Got a bunch of replacement controller PCBs. Thanks to Andy for that. We have Retro Game Restore, clear Super Nintendo shells. Those look beautiful. We have a bunch of these from Console 5, a bunch of the membrane replacements. Some more PC. We have some of the original ones that came with the PCBs that Andy sent over. We'll have those as a backup. Plus, we got buttons and stuff. I can't remember where the buttons came from. These might have been from Andy. Might have been elsewhere. My apologies. And I got brand new screws, which probably be a good idea for those. So I will put this over here. We also have some prototype D-pads that I'm really interested in trying. Got out from J&T. And we got braided Super Nintendo controller cables. So this should be an interesting one. Hey, what's up, Leo? Leo, isn't it funny how one character can make all the difference? Leo typed meant to type hi, but hit the number 8 instead because 8 is directly over I on the keyboard, so it looks like hate. It looks like Leo came in here and was like, I hate this. But that's not what Leo said. It was just one button off. Always kind of funny to me how that stuff happens. But so the one thing about this that's going to require a little bit more than just the basics is this connector on Super Nintendo controllers, this one right here that the cable plugs right into. This was a proprietary connector that is no longer being made. So we have to desolder these. And we have to solder the one that comes into this along with it. Let me open this up. And I talked about the braided controllers on podcasts a while back, so shouldn't be any surprise here. But all right, so oh, that's funny. It came with a fun little plastic case. Anybody need a pill bottle or a really, really tiny weed jar? Now let's open this up. Now we have the braided SNES controller. And this is supposed to be Super Nintendo length. They sent me these to try out, so it's very possible that they sent me the Super Famicom length ones. I'll check them all out later, but that's fine. This is really more about just trying out all of these new parts and seeing how they interact with each other. And it looks like there are 2 connectors here, which I guess is always good because they're super cheap and the chances of somebody messing one up are always pretty good. So that will just slide right in, but we're going to have to desolder and resolder this. Now let's check the box. Does it have a diagram? Okay, so it says the 2 lengths here. See if I can pick that up. Wow, my Sony cam has way better autofocus. Yeah, all right, so this is the shorter one. And let's see, do any of these have the longer one? Yeah, okay. So we got 2 shorter and 2 longer. All right, I'll figure this out. So I think what we should probably do is grab a Super Nintendo, plug it in, and just make sure that everything else is working. Because anybody who's modded stuff before knows what I'm about to say. How many times have you grabbed whatever it is that you're going for, and then started testing it and it didn't work, and then you realized the problem was your test setup, not the thing that you were building. So definitely get an SNES in here. All right, grab this. Got my triad. Wasn't there a ROM for the SNES controller test or something like that too? Let's I bet you I have that on my FX pack. We'll try that out in a second as well. So I'm not really sure exactly what material they used, but I do know that their NES replacement membranes are top tier, and they wanted to do the same with SNES. But if that's something you want to try out on your channel, I could send you a bunch of them for free. I'm not trying to like, I'm not trying to sell you something somebody gave me for free, but because I'm not as hardcore of an NES fan. I was actually considering sending a bunch to Mike Matei, but he's probably too busy. Let me grab what I got. Yeah, so they sent me these to try. Conductive silicone pads replacement for NES controllers, and these are much higher tier than what you find on like eBay, Amazon, all that stuff. I also have the braided controllers for those. So yeah, if you want to do a video on it, why not, right? This SNES burn-in test cartridge. Thank you. Let me grab that right now. Okay. Oh yeah, it would help if I plugged in the Tink. Come on, Tink. I'll put this over here. Maybe I should find a longer cable. I think we're working. Actually, I am going to need to find a longer cable because I have to pull the, I just remembered I got to pull the desoldering gun over it. Sorry, everybody. The red one is a prototype. They're trying it out to see if anybody's interested in it, and they're not even sure if they're going to make them. But if they do, I will absolutely post about it on RetroRGB. But I mean, this is the type of thing where, you know, if you like it, ask them on social media. Ask them politely, but just ask. I can't imagine any company being annoyed that you're enthusiastic about something they make. So, all right, we have a Tink booting. Let me grab a controller. Funny, well, I always like the SNES length for gaming. The Super Famicom ones are great for testing because of the shorter cable. So that way you don't have cables just flopping around everywhere. So I always leave my Super Famicom controller close as possible. Burn-in test cartridge, controller test. Oh, that they do diagonal testing. That's pretty cool. I can't believe it's either been years since I've used this or I've never used it. Okay. Well, that's about as easy as it gets for testing. Let me check the chat before I jump into the desoldering iron. I also have to find a bunch of pairs of glasses because I'm old and blind now. Dreamcast component cables, RGC when they come back in stock, definitely. And if HT Retrovision ever releases that, it's almost funny at this point. I can't remember, Leo, but I'll check that next. So where Shane wants to know, where do I land on using or not using gloves when assembling controllers or electronics? Some friends suggest wearing them to avoid getting finger oils and moisture on the components. That's a great question. So remember that I do these simply for, like I'm doing these streams just to do a quick test. I'm not doing them to like sell controllers or something. So I never actually thought of that, but that's a really good point. And I think if I were assembling these for other people, I really should be wearing white gloves to make sure that I don't get them all greasy. Now that said, brand new plastic, if you just wipe them down when you're done, you're fine, but there's still the oils that collect inside here on the membranes. That's a great question. I think if I were making these for anybody other than me, then I would take the time to do all that, but this is just beta testing. Hey Adam, I don't actually have the 8-bit DOE SNES controller, so I won't be able to test that, but I could certainly give it a try at some point in the future. All right, so all of these PCBs are about the same. I'm just going to grab the closest one, and I'm going to fire up my desoldering station. I also just want to politely remind everybody that I am not even remotely close to an expert modder. I'm not terrible at it, but if you see my desoldering techniques and they're not perfect, and it's because I'm not that great at it. I'm just doing what I got to do. I would love to do, just for fun, like a satire stream one time where I just like put a slop of hot glue on something and I'm like, yeah, I'm awesome. Look at that. But I have to delete it right after because I don't want people thinking I'm actually serious. All right, got everything lined up. All right, so I guess let me move these over. Y'all like these? I went to get the expensive ones and they were like $200 each. So one of the eye doctors I went to was like, go on Amazon or go to Target and you can get a 4-pack for like $20. And I found a 4-pack for 10, and they're like old ladies' glasses. There's one with like leopard prints on them, and I just leave them around my house. I leave the black ones here so I look less stupid, but the leopard print ones are kind of hilarious to me, to be honest with you. Hey, what's up, Rumblemans? I saw your latest creation, what you're working on. That looks pretty cool. Right. Well, that was about the easiest desoldering I've ever done in my entire life. Flip the new one right in its place. I'm assuming it's oriented the same because it would be kind of ridiculous if it wasn't, but we'll find out in a minute. I'll run one very quick test on this PCB, and if it works, I'll just use like a membrane to push down on it, and if it works, then I'll desolder the rest of them so that I could start cleaning this up and not just have a bunch of stuff in the way while we do this. Anybody hears me breathing heavy like I'm getting turned on by this stuff, it's my whole life. I don't know why, but I just automatically exhale whenever I solder and see the smoke coming up. Apparently, a lot of people I know do that, but I just did it because it seemed like the right thing to do, not randomly breathing in all this extra stuff. Okay. All right, so I'll get the controller test back up. Thank you for reminding me that it was in there. I totally had forgotten. Controller test. That controller. Okay, well, it detects the controller because it now says press key. So right off the bat, that means I didn't mess it up too bad. And it's saying fail because it's taking too long. It thinks that I'm trying to press it or something. Let me just grab a single button and we'll push them down on all the membranes and see what happens. So up works. Okay, I'm not actually following the controller test. I'm just pushing all of the buttons to make sure everything is working properly, which it looks like it is. I'll do the full controller tests after. Okay, so that is a complete success. So that I'm just going to very quickly do this on the remaining ones. And here. What's up, Ahmed? Hey, Patrick. Working nights, ouch. Hot glue guns and soldering is where I draw the line. I'm clumsy and guaranteed to burn myself. Yeah, I burn myself constantly. And hot glue guns, so when I first started RetroRGB, glue was the most talked about topic because there was a couple of notorious modders who were using glue to make the solder joints. So rather than touch a wire to a point and then put solder on it, the wire would be on the metal point. You'd put hot glue on it, wait for the glue to dry, and say, see, that's all you need. You don't need solder to solder a connection. You could just glue it. So it got a really bad rap because everybody was losing their minds. Like, that is absolutely not how things work. What are you doing? Don't do that. So yeah, but glue is great for things like you're soldering a bunch of wires in place, but you want to hold them in place while you're soldering. By all means, tack it up. Put some glue on there. As long as you're not touching solder points, it's actually a great idea. And then, use it to supplement, basically. But unfortunately, that's not the message that was gotten out there. Where old man glasses go? All right, here we go. I'm just going to blow through these real quick. Kind of stuck on one of them here, so I'm just going to run this across. Okay. And I'll be saving all of the originals. I don't know why. If anybody needs them, please let me know. Okay. One more to go. This has got to be the easiest desoldering I've ever experienced. So if anybody's a beginner who wants to, just learn how to use a desoldering iron, this is an amazing first project. So just like regular soldering, keep your tip clean, put it around the pin, kind of press down and wiggle until you see it melt, and then pull the trigger. obviously a lot more complicated than that when you're doing fine pitch soldering and stuff like that, but for here, totally works. Okay, I'll check the chat and I'll start dropping these in. Hey, what's up, Koala? How you doing? Oh yeah. Yeah, that one guy that you're remembering also covered the entire bottom of a AV Famicom with glue. I can't even understand how broken somebody's brain might be to think that's okay, but Shane said someone sent them a Sega Saturn they modified for review. One of the modification wires was glued in place near the save battery. It heated up, fell out, and caught fire. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Whew. That is everything we warn people about, where everybody's like, you're just exaggerating. You're just lying to sell not glue? I don't know. I don't even know what that accusation could possibly be, but yeah, wow, that is a horrible and awesome story at the same time. All right, just gonna whip these in real quick. And I think what I'd like to do after I solder the connections on is put one together and test it with the different replacement pads that I have. So I have some from Console 5, which I believe are just basic cheap replacements. So I'm going to test those out first, and then I'll try a different one using the original pads, and then I'll try another one using the new dpad. Well, I guess the third one, we'll kind of decide from there. Were the cheap ones junk? Are they good enough? And then we'll test these new D-pads and kind of see where we're at. Okay, no shorts. Everything's through. It's also a really easy soldering project for anybody who wants to do that. It's right in place, aims in the same direction. I probably should have checked the pinout, but I just can't imagine a capable company like J&T having it oriented the opposite of the original. That just would be a rookie move that they don't make. So, figured it was safe to guess this time. Okay, the other three are all in there. Oop, don't drop the desoldering iron on me. They were really upset that you didn't feature their system or their mod work on their channel. They always are. People like that are always the same. It's never their problem. It's always everybody else's fault. Everybody else is an idiot that just doesn't understand their perfect methods. They refuse to listen to feedback. It's every person I've ever dealt with. In all of my years of doing RetroRGB, there's been there's been a bunch of times where people were kind of dicks about it, and then afterwards they were like, you know what, I'm sorry, you were right. I thought that people were exaggerating, but whatever. And that's fine. I never have problems with that. But there's so many people, it's way more common for them to just never even consider the fact that it could be their fault and not anybody else's. So, yeah, it's not the slightest bit surprising to me. All right, let's do the purple one. I want to save the red one for last because that one's pretty awesome. I see why they didn't put that into production yet, because these are the three that match their three shells perfectly. So, and also, I want you all to vote on this, everybody here. So, I have 3 sets of clear D-pads and buttons. I also have originals. So, which colors, other than clear, should I put these on? Because they're obviously, that would match perfectly with this. Should I try it with the purple? But I'll let that go for a minute, and I'll wait for the chat to respond. Also going to This is that monitor I'm borrowing from Destiny, so I don't want to put many hours on it unless I have to. I'm going to be doing some BFI testing on it. Well, I have been doing some BFI testing on it, I should say. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. One more out there. And let's see what type of screwdriver I need for this too. Hey Felipe, the original connector on the SNES controller is proprietary and not made anymore, so you have to replace it with the one that J&T Studio sends with theirs. All right, that might be a fit. We can try that out. See what else we got. Ben Heck uses hot glue. Yeah, Ben makes a lot of weird mistakes sometimes, though. Beast, what's up? Good to see you, man. All right. So, grab original stuff here and see what we got. Or maybe I don't have the original D-pads and we have to use those no matter what we choose. I have... Yeah, okay. Well, that's kind of going to make our decision for us then. Because apparently I don't have plastic D-pad for this, so we'll have to see. All right, well... Let me do the clear one first, because that's obviously going to make sense to put all this stuff in it. And it's got the shorter cable, so this will just be the Super Famicom one. Put that over here. All right. I think all the buttons are basically the same. Because they're all clear, you don't have to worry about which one goes which. So I think they just fit in the slots. There we go. Since it's new plastic, I'm expecting there to be a little bit of a wear-in. Yeah, like they're already smoother after wiggling them a couple times. So, all right, I'll put this here. And we need start button membranes. I have originals here. Yep, I got a couple originals. Cool. And let me grab, I guess, original for this, just to keep this all as close to original ones as possible and see how it reacts. Maybe it's going to be terrible, maybe not. I don't know. We'll find out. All right, those are all there. I'm going to drop one of these PCBs right in. Okay. A little snug around these posts, which is totally fine, but just if you're putting one of these together yourself, you just expect that. And the buttons are a little bit more recessed than the stock, I think. But we'll keep going with these to see how they go. And of course, so these don't have the metal things. These are just built right into the plastic, I think. Or do I need the metal from the original? Uh-oh, that's going to be a big problem then. Oh boy. Okay, so that is a very important point that I missed. We're going to need those metal things. So these are really meant, I guess another thing I should clarify is that what my goal was here was to take destroyed SNES controllers, pull just the PCBs out, and try to make them working with what we have. But that's obviously not going to cut it because we still need things like the buttons, which not all of the Retro Game Restore controllers come with. And we're also going to need the metal pins that go in there, which I should have ordered. I think Console 5 might have those. But we could still continue for now. It's just not going to work the way I had hoped. But we could still do some testing, and we could still figure some stuff out here. Who knows? Maybe these will balance just right. I don't know. Okay. Brand new braided controller. Putting that in. If I remember correctly, it was like up in here, down through there, up through there. Probably should have done this before I put the other ones in, but or maybe these just go in because without wrapping around because they have the rubber on them. That would make sense because these aren't coming out with that there. Is there any instructions here? No. For more info, visit the official website. All right, well, I'm going to do that right now. Blend the clear buttons with the OG color somehow. Yeah, that's a good idea. Any cable makers that make replacement SNES cables that snap into the PCB? Yeah, but they're all mostly garbage. Yeah, Patrick, I did a whole thing on it last week, actually. And I've been deep dive testing for a while on how to use it with plastic or magnetic media like VHS. All right, let me go to their website real quick and just double check. Studios, braided controller cable. All right. It doesn't have any diagrams on the website, so I think we're just going to try it like this. But if anybody has any ideas, let me know, and I could absolutely just try whatever else. Hey, Durf. Yeah, Patrick. It's just last week's roundup. I talk about it there. Oh, Marcello, thank you. All right, so I think I'm going to try it just leaving it like this. It's funny, you know, I've known Luke for a while, and I bet you he sees my orders come in and laughs sometimes. Like once I ordered SNES fuses and an SNES Triad power supply from him, and I bet you he's laughing like, okay, so Bob used the wrong power supply on his Super Nintendo and needed to fix the fuse and get the right power supply for it. Got it. All right, so there's an L shape here, so you can't just put the controller that way. Or the controller cable that way. That's interesting. I fit it in this way? Wiggle that right in. All right, so this is going to be kind of a pain with the braided cables, is getting them to, because they are stiffer, so we have to get them to stay in place. And get the back cover over them. You know what? Let me just try taking the controller cable out, and let me just try putting the back shell on and make sure these aren't like, oh no, that fits perfect. Okay. That button's being a little weird. I guess we don't have to take it all apart all over again. Let me just deal with that now and see what we could do. Maybe rotate it. Maybe that was it. Maybe I just didn't rotate it to the right spot. All right. Try this again. Something still feels off on that button. Let me see what I'm doing wrong. I'll try swapping it with a different button to see if the problem follows the button or the slot. Check the chat again in a second. I know these streams get painful at some point. I always try to be honest about that. Oh, what'd Bob do on stream today? Oh, he took apart the same controller 7 times in a row because he was OCD about the buttons. All right, I think it's following the button itself, but that's fine. These are pre-production samples, so I'm just kind of testing them out just out of curiosity. So if that's a problem, we could easily swap those out. I do have some originals here. Try to finagle this cable in. And plug this in. The original SNES cable wrapped around like this. There's just not enough room to do that with the braided cable. And there's already built-in strain relief, so I'm not so much worried about that. I'm just worried about getting them all to fit and squishing it down with the other top of the controller in. Yeah, that was fine. Right in. All right. Now, whenever you first screw down the screws in something like this, they basically have to self-tap. You know what? I'm realizing that I should have done this before I put everything in, because that way if the screw breaks, you could just grab it out with a pair of pliers. But you know what? We'll have to live dangerous today. The other reason I like to use a smaller screwdriver for stuff like this, because there's less chance of breaking the head. Because there definitely are larger screwdrivers that could do this, but you might just snap the head off than trying to thread the plastic. Two more, and then I'll kind of tighten them up. Definitely going to put a lot of pressure. If you're doing multiple of these at once, take breaks, your hands are going to hurt. This is nothing though. My wife got a super good deal on a bunch of like outdoor furniture, stuff that we normally could never ever afford, but this was on sale. And I was like, I wonder, it looks like good stuff, you know, good for me at least. I wonder why it's so expensive. And then I realized that all had to be assembled when it arrived, and where all the screws were, you couldn't fit power tools in there. So you had to do every single screw with the stupid Allen wrench it came with. It was infuriating. All right, so the triggers I actually feel like this could still be usable, so I'm not going to ruin this whole test. Everything seems fine, but I'm curious about those buttons. So let's see what we got here. Check the chat. Hey, what's up, Wayne? Use glue to hold the cable in place. That's funny. Yeah, Felipe, it's too thick to do that, I think. All right, cool. Caught up. So, already it's good, good sign. Oh, so you see X and B are kind of stuck down. Okay. Let me loosen this up a bit. We'll try it with the real buttons if that still keeps happening. The original buttons, not the real buttons. All right, so up, left, down, right. Yeah, so these buttons are sticking pretty bad. Okay, we gotta take this apart again. I'm gonna try the original buttons and see if that makes a difference. And you know what? Since I already got them in like that, let me see. I might actually have enough. Because getting them in, you need to do it by hand. It's definitely, you can't use power tools, and if you did, there's an excellent chance you'll just strip it or strip the plastic or something. But you could certainly use it on the second time, because you could use less powerful ones. Yeah. It's like Uncle Scrooge taught us, work smarter, not harder. Oh, that one's getting a little stripped. I'm going to have to... All right, so I will not make this mistake on the next controller we do. I'll make sure to put the screws in to tap it first before doing anything else in case one gets stuck like that. Oh, speaking of which, I broke that one. Well, damn. Okay. Get these. I guess the cheap screws I bought were probably a little too cheap. Huh. Well, that's pretty funny. These are ones that I bought myself, by the way. These don't come with any of these kits, so let's not blame Kit for any of this stuff, other than the fact that you should tap these before you go in. Let me see if I got a screwdriver handy that'll fit, and if not, I will just move on to the next and fix that one later, because I don't... wasn't supposed to be a fix broken head stream. No. Okay. And I got the last one. Nice. Okay, got lucky. I am just going to throw these screws right out because obviously I was pushing it too far. I actually never saw the rebooted DuckTales. Right. So unfortunately, this one has that stuck in. So I'll do one more test with this controller, but I think that's going to require some surgery that I'm not prepared to do right now. But let's just grab, let's see if we have any replacements over here. All right. We're going to grab the standard style buttons, put those in, and redo this thing. I always forget how they go. I always got to look up a picture of a Super Nintendo controller, which is funny because that's my favorite controller that I've been using forever since it came out, basically. I've not seen the metal controller shell, but that's pretty cool. All right, so X and Y are the lighter colors. And I'll move on. If this doesn't work right, I'll just move on to the next controller because you never know, right? These are pre-production samples. Maybe one of the tolerances on the plastic was a little off. Okay. I'm still going to use the clear D-pad though because I thought that was kind of neat. Part select. I can already tell the buttons already feel better. So before I go any further, let me take these buttons where one or two had issues. I'll put them aside. It could just be that these pre-production buttons, a couple of them were off. So I have 2 more packets we could try later. L. Wrestled in. Okay. I like this screwdriver better. I'm going to use this one. I'm going to screw this stuff down. It should be so much easier now because we've already tapped the holes. Oh, that was the one with the screw stuck in it. All right, I'll get that later. I wonder if using a very thin drill bit to tap these holes would be better. Or maybe I just ordered the wrong screws. Maybe I didn't get the correct self-tapping. I don't know. We'll find out when we do the next one. Everything seems great. That certainly looks cool. No doubt that looks cool. It's still showing X as being pushed down. Maybe I just have this a little too tight. Let me back that off a little bit. Yeah, okay, let's try now. Oh, okay, the button's sticking. Let me loosen this up a little bit more just to see. Because the plastic isn't spaced out or anything, so it could be that I over-tightened. Yeah, so if you tighten all the way, and it does that, and then you loosen it up, and the controller goes squish, 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 then it's, there are problems with the controller, but that's not what happened. So let's, um, yeah, as you can see, that's not stuck anymore. That was it. I just tightened it down a little too much. All right, so this worked pretty good. Unless you all object, I was just going to do another one, and you tell me what color you'd like. But while we're here, so let's see how it compares in length to the Super Famicom. It's a hair longer. You see that? Yeah, it's a hair longer right there. But that is still pretty cool. I'll give the chat a couple minutes, but I like that a lot. I like the look of it. And you can see the D-pad or the triggers kind of flopping around because I don't have the metal. But for anybody who joining now, that's me. That's not Retro Gamer Store or J&T. And you see how it comes up and it's still crimped in the over here as it should be. That's not going anywhere. All right, I think this looks awesome. So let me see. Check the chat here. Clear red. All right. Fahrenheit. That's what we're going to be testing on here as well. Oh, Wayne, those are always my favorite. But you know what? Now that I say that, maybe they're my favorite because that's what I grew up with. And if I grew up with the Super Famicom style ones, that's what I would have liked. So who knows? But the red one next. And do we want the red one? I guess we should try the clear buttons on this to see if it has the same issue as before. But let's start. And you know what? Shane was asking before if I use gloves. I don't. But when it comes to pushing down on plastic, I do always use something fluffy, just in case. So here. I think I'd prefer to do it this way. Well, first of all, if you're doing this at home, this is definitely the way you should do it. One at a time, just deal with it, because you could see this how far down the screw goes. And if you try to use a drill to tap these out, it's so easy to just slip and go all the way through to the other side, because plastic isn't, it's a lot softer than you think, especially when you're doing stuff like this. So tightening this down like this to strip or to tap the hole, and make sure that you're not creating any bumps on the outside, because that pulls the plastic in. That's good there. I'll just keep doing this. Oh, uh-oh. Did I just broke the head? Well, shit, maybe I should be doing the drill then. That sucks. Once again, I ordered these screws. These are not screws that came with these kits. I cheaped out and just ordered a bag of screws for pennies, knowing that I didn't have the originals. So your original Super Nintendo controller screws are not going to break off the same way these are. But I do think that means we need to use a drill to tap these. And I am going to figure out a way to grab that with some, maybe I can use some pliers and pull them out. Well, I like making mistakes on this, so you all don't have to. Hey, Alex. All right, let's see. No, that's going to be, yeah. That's going to require me to shave down some of that plastic and grab it with vice grips and twist it out. We could still do it with this red one, but they're both going to need some adjustments after the fact. So that is fixable, but let me go and grab my drill bits and stuff. Algae, that's one of the things I was hoping to test today, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to, because J&T Studios made some replacements that's supposed to be equal to stock, which is almost impossible to find. So I'm hoping I'll be able to test that today at some point, but we'll see. Before I test that, I want a fully assembled controller that's, doesn't have other issues with it. All right, so I'm going to, you know what? Let me get the, where's my super duper old people glasses? Over here. All right. I'm going to try to match up the head of this. Ooh, my thinnest one might actually be a tiny bit too thick, but you know what? Come this far. Let's see what we got. So normally I would think something like a hand drill would be better for this, but then you would need a way to hold the controller in place while you're spinning the hand drill, and I just don't think that's realistic. So I think it's more realistic to do Interesting. Did I already do that side? All right, so that one wasn't too thick. Wasn't thick enough. Yeah, okay. Find another drill bit. Hey, W, how you doing? Oh, I might not have a drill bit good enough for this. Uh-oh. This one's probably going to be too thick. Do this by hand and see. Yeah, I think that's going to be too thick. Any suggestions? See what we could think of here. I guess in a perfect world, I would have had a much longer one of these. So I don't have to worry about, just for stripping, or for tapping. So I don't have to worry about, if the head breaks, there's still plenty of meat out there to be able to pull it out. Let's see. Well, maybe we'll get lucky. I'll check the chat for any suggestions at all, too. We'll see where that goes. So right now, I'm just concentrating on not putting it in too far. I'll back it out once. I'll rescrew it. And that way, if the head does break off, there's still enough screw there where I'd be able to remove it. That, of course, means the last couple turns when I put it on for real, we're going to be tapping that area. So we'll see. Oh. And I'm just going to throw the screw out, because while I hate waste, that's just asking for trouble. Sheriff, can I just borrow SNES screws from another controller? Absolutely, but then it's still the problem of making sure I tap it properly and then, whatever else I could do. A reverse twist drill bit, I do not. SJF Tech, I'm friends with Voltar, so you know what kind of stream this is. Dr. Droop is the one here getting a little frisky. Sniper Mike, that's only when you're going into pre-tapped holes. So, all right, let's give this a shot. And let's, since this one has a broken screw, I'm not going to try the new membranes. I'm just going to try another. Maybe we'll do this one 100% from console 5. And then if I can get one built properly, then we'll go from there. This is all the brand new console 5 membranes. Now I should leave notes. Well, let me just stop real quick and fire up Notepad, just so later on I don't go, what the hell did I do in that stream? All right. Here equals membranes. It equals console 5 membranes. All right. Now let's try another set of clears to see if the button issue follows the buttons, the cases, whatever else. Now they all seem to be keyed the same. So it's not, I don't think I should say, it's a matter of me putting them in the wrong places like you could with originals. We'll see. If I have the same issue this time, I'll go back and triple check all of that stuff. Maybe they are keyed different? Swap these out. Oh, I guess they are keyed a little different. See, this is why I need multiple pairs of glasses. This is super embarrassing, but you know what? I'm old and that part's not embarrassing. Everybody gets old. All right. So these are keyed slightly different, so that might have been the problem with the first set of controllers buttons that I did. You gotta go in. Yeah, okay. All right, that explains it. No problem with the buttons. Problems with my eyes. All right. These are... One of these days we get Lewis from Zez Retro on, and we'll make this a drinking game. Every time I switch glasses, we gotta take a shot of beer or something. And also, just a quick reminder that none of these controller PCBs are tested. So there is an excellent chance that we're going to turn one of these on and it's just not going to work at all. And that's fine. Wanted to set expectations so everybody understands what we're getting into here. But first one went surprisingly well, so. All right. These. I will obviously be ordering more posts for these, but for today's testing, I think this is fine. Grab this one. I think all we had to do was basically just bend that over like that, because the L-shaped thing on this one should hold that in place. Yep. Cool. Oh, this does look pretty neat. All right, let's get some screws in. I think too, when I go to, if I go to do any changes on these things, I think I'm going to throw out these screws and put new ones in. And once again, I hate waste, but I also bought like a 50, 100 screws for $1, and this is what I get. This is my punishment. So check the chat. Sniper Mike, I thought that was very funny watching that back. And I definitely will not be doing that again unless it's like a very special occasion. Okay, so no buttons are showing as pressed. Okay, so immediately I am seeing that it was harder to do the diagonals with the cheap Console 5 ones. By the way, Console 5 doesn't manufacture these. They get them in bulk, and they try to just provide you a cheap way to use these. And when I've used them before, I've never had issues with the single buttons, only with the D-pad. So I mean, it's not nearly as bad as other stuff I've seen, but do a quick Super Mario World test, and then we'll do another controller test. And I don't have any other D-pad. I was going to say, Durf had a good suggestion about a combination of buttons, but I don't have any original gray D-pads on me here today. I mean, the D-pad feels pretty good. It's not the worst, that's for sure. I've had new controllers where just running like this, like it would fail going back and forth. So Console 5 D-pads definitely aren't as good as Nintendo originals, but I mean, this is way less crappy than a lot of the others. All right, let's do another one. Let me check the chat if anybody has any suggestions, but and that was another Super Famicom length one. And have I ever done resurfacing of membrane contacts? No, I've never done the one where you use some graphite on them. Graphite pen, it sells on Amazon. You know what? Hold on a second. I don't see what you're talking about. All I'm seeing is like graphite pencils. But here, look. Just YouTube will delete links automatically, but if you just post something like this, the Amazon number, I could look that up. So if you wouldn't mind posting that, I could take a look. And let's do the, I guess let's do the purple controller. And I will also use these buttons again. So I could, these are the ones I used last time, so I could figure out what the issue was with that. And one screw for tapping. Don't screw it in too far. I completely understand why Retro Gamer Store doesn't pre-tap these, because while yes, they're designed to be used with your original Super Nintendo screws, what if you did what I did and you just bought a pack online? And what if RGR tapped them to the exact size of a Super Nintendo screw and yours is a hair thinner? Now you have a case that doesn't fit right, so it just seems like you bought something crappy, even though you didn't. And yeah, I guess you could argue like, no, they're supposed to be used with the exact original size, but I mean, these part of the things I love about these replacements is of their versatility. You could use them for a bunch of other stuff. Oop, oop, oop. Oh, hold on. I'm really sorry. I got a delivery. I just gotta go open the door. Be right back. Sorry about that, everybody. All right. I think I'm same volume. Okay. Quick, someone steal Bob's glasses while he's gone. That's funny. That's some Ash Evans shit right there. What specifically makes the 34 years old D-pad so much better? That's an excellent, excellent question. And what I think, here's a guess, but it's a guess based on quite a lot of years of this bullshit. When you make something in the millions versus the thousands, everything is different. It's harder. It's actually much harder, but the quality control is going to be a lot tighter, and the stuff that you use. So if you buy 1 million of something, you're definitely going to get it cheaper than if you bought 10,000 of something. So the graphite used, the molds, the quality of the mold to press these things out, I think all of that stuff is really what it comes down to. And I also think that's why, like the Switch Online controllers, they have the experience in making these. I think that's kind of why all that stuff falls into place the way it does. Just speculation, though. I could be wrong. All right. Got 1, 2, 3, 4. I need the fifth one. Right here. All right. On the fifth one, don't break. I want to assemble one of these okay on stream. Do not break. All right, so far so good. All right. And I'm going to use original membranes for this one, but with the exception of the D-pad. So let me do purple. Get that saved. Here we go. Oh, hot. Oh, yeah, let me glasses switch so I could check out these buttons and make sure I have them lined up properly, unlike last time. Nope. Yep. So these are the same buttons I had issues with the first time. My guess is that they're going to be totally fine this time. Unless one really was slightly off tolerance because it's a prototype or something, but... Oh yeah, I totally missed this. That was just my eyesight going. All of these feel wildly different than they did the last time. Okay, well, I never mind making stupid mistakes, especially when it saves you the trouble. And now we're going to use one of these brand new J&T Studio ones that they've been working on. We should be able to see right away, too, how it reacts compared to the other one. All right, in, drop this sucker in. And this one is going to have an SNES length cable on it. Yeah, significantly longer. Awesome. And we'll get these purple triggers in. And that in place. Everything certainly looks and feels great. Let's grab some more screws. Hope I don't strip anything. Okay. All right, everybody. Last two? Last one. Yeah, last two. Let's see if nothing broken yet. Okay. Everything is very snug. Nice long cable. Try this sucker out. You know, to Shane's point before, I got some like grease on my hands or something. Let me, I don't know if it's from the screwdriver or from the other membranes. I'm gonna wash my hands. As I always say in these streams, I am just washing my hands. I am not peeing. That probably will happen at some point, but it is not happening now. This is just hygiene. And taking Shane's point of not greasing up a brand new controller is a valid point. You know, I think another thing I'd like to try to do is determine exactly what is a really good high quality screw that's replacement for both the controllers and the consoles. Because if you had to spend, I don't know, $4 on screws as opposed to $1, but everything worked perfectly, the heads wouldn't snap off, they're much stronger, I think most of us would just say, if we're going to rebuild our controller, might as well do it right. All right, it says it passes. But this was a lot more, this is the brand new membrane from J&T, and it's a lot more sensitive, which I don't know if that's going to matter or not. All the buttons work, so let's try some Super Mario World. Let me check the chat before I do. Yeah, Joey, these are the ones I have linked in the description, the braided controller cables. Let me raise this up a little bit so you can see better. Am I the only person that's being bugged that this isn't in my normal 10x mode? I'm going to go with yes. Or if Firebrand X was here, he'd agree. X, RGBS, Sharp 10X. Yeah, baby. Here we go. So the first thing I'm feeling is the convex buttons instead of the concave, which I'm just not quite used to because I usually just use my Super Famicom controller for testing. But that's total preference. D-pad's reacting very nicely, and it might be a little sensitive, but this is also a brand new D-pad, so I could just very well be used to 30-plus-year-old ones. Yeah, okay. So this is definitely better than the last one, that's for sure. So let me just see what we should do next here. It's the correct Gromric. It's the aspect ratio. So display aspect ratio, and it makes it exactly as if it were 4:3. When I'm playing on a flat panel TV, I usually like the ultra sharp ones, unless I'm using a CRT mask, but just for what you see there, which the aspect ratio is often close, but not exact. All right. So what else should we test here? And also, is there a combination of stuff that you all want to see? Let me get this back down here. I think this looks really awesome. I think the clear buttons with the purple shell, I think that looks really, really cool. I like that a lot. Is there an SNES contra test for diagonals? That's a great question. I would love to know. If anybody knows the answer to that, I could certainly try that. For me, it would be like wall jumping in Super Metroid. All right. So we could put the clear buttons back in this one, which would make the most sense. And maybe we put the purples and the red. Maybe the first thing I do is just put the other buttons back in this and try that one out again. Algae, I don't think they're up for sale yet, but as soon as they are, I'm going to post on the website about them. This out of here. And because these, obviously it ships with a cable crimp like that, I'm going to have to hang these again to stretch them out like I normally do. Put these this way for now. Just kind of leave that hanging. All right, so I'm going to just do the button swap here, but if anybody else has anything else you want me to try, please let me know. Be very careful getting these heads out. And I will be throwing all of these screws away. That's what I get for trying to save a buck. I should have gotten some like really nice ones. I learned about bolt grading when I was a kid because a friend of mine, he needed a very specific kind for his engine mount for his car because he just used like basic ones and the engine mounts snapped. So he wanted to make sure that he got it right. That's when I learned about that. Although I don't know how it relates to smaller screws like this, but I'm positive there's different tolerance ratings on them. I wonder if we could use the plastic to our advantage here. What if we pull it out like that to add tension as I'm spinning the head? Ooh, that kind of seemed to work a little better. I was really afraid that one was going to snap off. Woohoo! All right. Not coming out. Toss those. Put the clear buttons in. Let me check the chat. What do I think about the 8-bit Do gamepad? I haven't used it in a long time. I bought them when they first came out. I had emailed them a bunch of times about customer service stuff. Like, hey, are you going to add this feature? Have you thought about this? And I almost never got a reply, and I just didn't buy too many of their stuff after that. And I recognize that a lot of their controllers are excellent. So I definitely want to, credit where credit's due. But no, I don't really buy too much of that. Okay. These buttons. Line up the clears. Yeah, that really is looking like just 100% my fault before, which is fine. "100% my fault" meaning the button's not working right. So I wasn't sure if it was the buttons or this mold or this particular one, and it just looks like it was only my inability to see um, the the keyed buttons, how each one has its own button to go into. So I don't have an extra plastic D-pad, so I can't finish off the other one, but I could certainly try other stuff if anybody wants to see anything. So as soon as I'm done putting this one together and rechecking it, please, anything you want to see, and just let me know in the chat, and we'll go from there. Oh, knock the button out. Okay. New screws. Why am I having trouble? I don't have trouble with any of these. At a weird angle or something? So theoretically, I shouldn't have any more trouble screwing these down because the hole was already tapped fully. But I'm still going to be gentle and careful just because I did cheap out on screws like a moron. Yeah. And that's the side with the screw stuck in it. I'll grab this last one. All right, and then I'll fire this up, check the chat, and we'll see where we're at from there. Okay. So everything feels great except for this one button. Am I too tight? Am I something's up with that. So it's not bad, but there's no play. It's sitting farther down. So maybe I messed up the buttons again. Let's take that apart one last time, and I'll check the chat as well. I mean, when it comes to wired versus wireless, whenever you're playing games where any kind of reaction time is crucial, wired is always going to be better. Just because, unless you have a terrible, terrible controller, it's going to be as fast as possible. That said, wireless just makes so many people's lives so much easier. So from that point on, all I would care about is how much latency there is. So theoretically, Bluetooth is always going to be laggier or potentially laggier than just standard RF wireless. However, if you use Blue Retro in a decent controller, you can get 6 milliseconds, which is very fast. That said, I mean, you could get less than that with 2.4 gig wireless if you have the right combination of stuff, including the environment, which is always really, really important. So right now, living in the burbs, if you do a search for wireless networks, you get handfuls of them. So, there's potential for some interference, but the chances of me not being able to enjoy a game because of wireless controller lag are very, very slim here. Whereas when I was living in Manhattan, you're surrounded by thousands of wireless networks. So the chance of something going wrong that causes a glitch in the controller speed is much, much higher. So in Manhattan, I would always use wired no matter what, unless I was like testing or basically, if I was actually playing a game, it would be wired. But now, I think I would certainly be open to a lot more wireless. And I had, when I had an arcade setup over the other side over there, I actually had the Neo Geo CD controller for a lot of arcade stuff, and the N64 Retro Fighters controller as well. I had always hooked up to my Shmups box because you only need 2 buttons for most of those anyway. So. All right, now I have to go back to the super old man, like zoom glasses here. All right. So it was partially that it could have been in a better position, but it's also just not sitting right. So let me see where else this will fit and go from there. Okay, that seems to fit perfectly in there. All right, so that could have just been another button placement issue. But they do fit in more than one spot, so that's something that everybody's going to have to pay attention to. This is one of the many reasons why I love doing these live streams and failing, because now when I do my little recap in this week's roundup, instead of watching a long stream where I fumble around, I could just skip to the end and tell you what to do. These back in. We'll try this one more time. And once again, if there's anything anybody else wants me to try, I do have one more controller, but I'm missing one more plastic D-pad. I'm going to need to order one of those. Hopefully Luke from Console 5 will have some. I just need one more of those. Here. And if anybody's just joining, I also forgot the posts for these, which is why they keep falling out while I'm trying to put the cover on. It's going to be good enough for testing, but I definitely need to order those as well. Damn it, see? Okay. All right, well, I can already feel without a doubt that all the buttons feel infinitely better. So that's just the only trick. If you end up getting some of the buttons, because these are, I think, were special for the first couple of orders, all you have to do is just make absolutely sure that they're in the correct slot, and just count on having to take them apart and back open at least once, which isn't going to be bad for that, you know, new plastic controller anyway, because now you can tap the screws a little bit better. Oh wait, you know what? Let's do a couple of things on this. Sorry, everybody. Now you have to watch me fumble with the stupid cover all over again, but all right. Do I take written notes as I go along in these live streams? Only for stuff like right now. Like the notes I have in this is throw out all screws, all need trigger posts, clear stock membranes, which I'm now actually changing to console 5 membranes. And then purple is stock membranes, but J&T dpad. Yeah, that's actually what I'm going to do on this one. I'll mark these as well. But as far as like what do I leave notes so that I could talk about it in the weekly roundup? Mostly no, because I could retain this stuff pretty well. But there's a time limit for that. Like many times I have gone to fix something and gone, man, I don't know what to do. Let me look up the problem. And a video or an article I wrote comes up that I have no memory whatsoever of doing, which is weird because my memory is pretty rock solid, but I guess when you work on the same stuff over and over and over, it gets easy to mix things up. All right, I'm also going to put these. Oh. Stock. Oh. So what I'd like to do as a follow-up stream once I get the new parts in and once I have some time is to do something like play through a game that I know, whether it's, you know, F-Zero, Super Metroid, something, and switch between the controllers with the different membranes and a stock controller and kind of figure out which I like best. I'll try to have the posts fixed before then. I think I could just like cut over on the side and grip it. I don't know. It's going to be hard. If anybody has any ideas on how to get that screw out without completely destroying this, please let me know. But I probably won't do that on stream because that's probably just going to be lots of trial and error, just boring failures over and over. So, but yeah, I think that's probably the best way to go about doing this. And I also want to, maybe I'll just leave this one as is for myself because it's got the broken screw and I'll just use it for me. But I'm going to put a longer Super Nintendo controller on this one. And that's basically it. I'll probably just wrap up the stream after that, unless anybody has any suggestions or anything else they want to see. I do think that was a kind of a nice touch, though. A little canister, the extra things in them. That was pretty cool. All right, got my nice long Super Nintendo cable. I have the J&T dpad in this one. Ah, damn it. How did I forget those posts? Yeah, feels much better. So I think what I'm going to try to do then is purposely use this one as much as possible whenever I'm testing. That way I could put the J&T D-pad really through its paces. And I'll just make this like my dedicated controller. The D-pad membrane and even the braided controller cable, just to see. And I will keep in mind that it is missing a screw post over here because it's stuck in there, but I think we'll be all right. Okay, plastic is tight on all sides. Oops. This is a stock membrane for the start and select buttons, and they're not making the best connections. I'm going to leave that. All right, replace start button with the console 5 one when I open this thing back up again. I won't do this on stream now, but when I go to put the posts in, I'll definitely do that. Because it's, you gotta like really push down in order to get it, but the actual buttons that you use during gameplay seem fine. All right, so this button that felt funky feels perfect now. Feels absolutely perfect. Yeah, those aren't even registering. You really gotta smush them down here. Okay. So this one's pretty cool. I like the clear buttons. I'm not usually a fan of the convex, like Super Famicom style. I like the concave. I guess we could put together the final one just to complete this stream here, and kind of go from there. Unless there's something else anybody would want to see. Like, I guess one of the things that we could kind of check out now. Because we have this one left, but I don't have a plastic D-pad. But I am kind of curious too, which would be the best one, what people think would be the best one to have the purple buttons into. Would it be red? Would it be smoke? Or would it be purple? I mean, I guess you could say purple because it's got the purple buttons. I don't know. I think that looks really cool with the clear buttons. Do you? So first of all, keep the questions coming about anything. I don't care. I mean that in a very nice way. But also definitely comment on these controllers too. Otherwise, I'm just going to mess around for another 20 minutes or so, 15, whatever. But Algie wanted to know if I recommend any video or tutorial to get started with the RetroTink 4K. So the original launch video that I did introducing the RetroTink 4K, that one kind of shows you everything it could do, but that's more of like a look at everything this thing can do. To get started, I think what you really just need to do is use it, because there's so many things that it does great just out of the box. But if you want to start messing with different features and options, the videos that I put out, the launch video I put out certainly gives you an idea of what to expect. If you're going to do VHS capture, watch each of those videos, maybe even twice. And I'm not saying that for any reason other than it's confusing, because it kind of has to be. So if you're doing VHS stuff, before you dive into the actual VHS, like, the actual ripping, watch those videos without a doubt. And then for the extra other stuff, just go into the profiles and try them, because there's no harm could be done. Worst thing you could do is it just doesn't really look right. So not a big deal. Maybe they do look kind of cool. All right, so maybe I should just put this together as without the plastic, just to do it. And on the final stream, whatever that might be, we could, because I have to take them all apart anyway. So on whatever the final stream of this is, we all decide what the final combination would be. Or I could give some to friends and do some other stuff. And my secret stash of stuff? I mean, the stuff that I have no problem talking about is I'm using, this is Destiny FOMO's monitor. This is a 240 hertz 4K OLED, and it could also run at 480 hertz in 1080p or lower. And I'm using this to test black frame insertion as well as the Blur Buster's CRT simulate modes. And it has been kind of a crazy learning experience for me, because when you talk about like basic BFI, 60 to 120 or 72 to 144, whatever, it's a very, very simple concept to wrap your head around, right? You take that 60 frame per second image and you display it once within a 120 frame per second time period. So basically, half of that time is on and half of that time is off. And that clears the panel out so that when the next frame starts being drawn, you don't have any image retention from the previous frame. So that's how you get much smoother motion. However, it is kind of flickery. And the higher the frame rate you go, the less flickery it gets. But then you start getting into not only just higher frame rates, but when you use the CRT Simulate BFI, that's flashing a bunch of times on screen. So you have situations where that looks amazing, but it still could potentially give people headaches and stuff or make you dizzy. Like if you ever get off a ride at an amusement park and you feel fine on the ride, and then you feel a little weird when you get off the ride, and then like 20 minutes later you're dizzy, it could do that. And I'm trying to figure out what the best combinations are. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I haven't put that or any other high production video out, is because this has taken insanely more time than you would expect. But I'm also working on Doomsday stuff, Doomsday Duplicator, as well as for both Laserdisc and potentially for VHS. I'm talking to people about that. So there's a lot of stuff, a lot of pots with food in it cooking on the stove at the moment. But a lot of the projects that I've wanted to work on for a while take months, if not years. Like the whole VHS capture thing, that was 2 years of work before those videos started to come out. And I was still not even done. I just had to kind of take a little bit of a break. So yeah, I've unfortunately heard a few supporters complain that they don't support just for 2 weeklies, they support for the other stuff. But, you know, it's up to me to kind of figure out a balance between what everybody else wants and kind of what makes me happy doing this stuff. So I'm going to keep going with some of the longer term projects and hope that people trust me and stick with me, because, you know, it could turn out to be something important or it could turn out to be a big fail, but I'm trying. Oh, son of a bitch. Broke another one. So only one of these controllers has all the screws in them? You gotta be kidding me. And that was even the second time I had screwed it in and screwed it out. I was being careful too. I bet you these screws really just are that bad. Well, my fault. Four controllers, 3 of them have screws broken off in them. What a total dork. Yeah. Joel Rose at Algae said they spent their first couple of days tweaking profiles and setting up the number button shortcuts for the RetroTink 4K. It's a great idea, because if you know the things that you use most by far are like, I don't know, like TV and movies with scan lines on them, but in Super Nintendo and Wii, you could have those at a single button push. So that would actually work out great. All right, so we have J&T membrane I'm putting here just as a placeholder, even though there's no actual plastic in it. That'll be funny to see when I assemble this thing. I'm going to use console 5 for all the rest of the buttons. Let me leave a note for that too. Okay. Am I playing anything on Switch 2? I do not own a Switch 2. My plan is, if I walk into a store and I see it sitting there, I'm not completely broke that month, I'll buy it. But I'm not going to bend over backwards to try to get one. That's just kind of my plan. I'm not suggesting that's what anybody else do. It's just what I do, because I really don't have time anyway to play. I think if I got it, I would force myself to do a live stream just so I could definitely play it. Once again, got to double check. The purples are on the bottom. The darker purples are on the bottom. Yeah. I wonder why they changed convex to concave for these buttons. I wonder what Nintendo's thought process on that was. Was it that they started putting them out in Japan and thought, you know, I actually like the other one better, but it's too late because we already started releasing them here, so we'll do, you know, other parts of the world this way? Or was it a fat American hands thing? I don't know. I'd like to know the answer to that. Or if or it was just not even a thing that they thought about, and it just happened. I think it's good that I'm finishing this one up on this stream too, because I don't want to start the other stream to find out that this PCB doesn't work or something like that. So I think it's smart that we're testing this here. Whenever I do the follow-up in a couple of weeks, we'll know what works and what doesn't. Wow, I'll have a lot of extra baggies to put extra screws in if I need to share my extra screws with some friends. Hold the cable in place, cross our fingers, and get that top on. Oh, that does look pretty cool with those buttons on there. All right. I guess I'll keep this one with a stock color. I just have to pick one of those up, but that does look pretty cool. Screw this together. We'll do one final test, and then I'll call it. And anybody has any questions for me, fire away. I'll happily answer anything I can that I actually have an answer to. Yeah, that should be it, right? And also, for anybody listening, I will update the description to this with a link to good screws if I find any. I'll probably update the description to say the screws I bought suck. You know, check back for decent ones. All right. Well, that does look really cool. So let's fire this up one last time. Test the controller, and then I'll just start cleaning up too and answer any questions anybody has. And once everything's all cleaned up, I'm out of here. And I'll go grab a snack and then start working on the weekly podcast. So I'm going to cheat here and go 1. How am I going to do that with these? Ooh, challenge. Okay, select, start. So interesting that, I don't know if it's because it doesn't have the post in it, but this one isn't triggering as well as the others were. So I don't know if it's the cheap replacement pads, but these seem to be working fine. So that's interesting. We'll have to check that afterwards. Let me make a note. I definitely won't remember. Hey, Super Nintendo, thanks for jumping in. What's up, Ariel? How you doing? All right. So, I guess let me lay these out so we could see them as I'm cleaning up, and use my giant head. Put the Super Famicom controller here too. I'll grab the other one so you could kind of just all see them, see what they look like. I'm still undecided as to what the final configuration of buttons and colors would be. But they all certainly seem to look cool to me. All right, so I'm just going to take another 2 or 3 minutes to clean up, and then I'm out of here. But are those all in shot? Am I messing that up? No, I got to push these up a bit more. Off. No, now it's a little too far away. Let me spread these out so you all can see them. Just a little bit better, maybe? Maybe? No. When I use my Sony camera, the viewfinder stops working whenever I connect HDMI, which is why it's harder to line up. I still think the autofocus works a million times better than the GH5 though, so I'm glad I'm using these for streams now. Quality seems decent enough too. I mean, it's not a prime lens on a GH5, but it's a hell of a lot better than a webcam. Yeah, Frank, go for it. I'll hang out. Apocalyptic Minister, do I still think the OSSC is a good option for the price? Hell yeah, absolutely. If you think about what you're getting with that, especially considering that the price hasn't really changed much, even though everything else on the planet's gone up, yeah, buying an official OSSC from the Video Game Perfection or authorized resellers, like I believe Stone Age Gamer, I can't remember, I think they are consoles for you, but yes, absolutely, you get a lot for your money, and that's why I included it in the LG G4 video, or C4 video, I wish I could afford a G4, because there's just a lot of people that they don't need anything else. Like if you're into CRT mask emulation, you really can't get any better than the Tink 4K, and the Tink 5X is very, very respectable, and it's probably worth the money if you're looking for a CRT replacement. But if you're just looking to play your old games in super sharp quality, the OSSC is incredible. So yeah, I still think it holds up, and I especially think it holds up even with stuff like the Wii, where you could take the Wii and put it to 960p and let your TV go from there. So yeah, absolutely. The purple buttons, I think, would look really good on the purple shell. And I have an extra set, so I could... Actually, let me just put these out here. Kind of cheesy, but, you know, at least we can get a sense of what to expect. I could certainly put these on here. That's not a problem. But the all clear does look pretty cool. So I don't know. That's going to be a tough one. Cool, Apocalyptic Minister. Just, I suggest going to RetroRGB to get the link. Yeah, it's an affiliate link. If you really hate me that much, just copy it and then delete the code at the end of it or something. But that will at least ensure that you're not getting a low-quality clone. Because I've heard, actually, I've heard more and more in the comments, people saying stuff like, oh yeah, well, all of these retro gaming scalers fail, or these OSSCs aren't that good. And it's like, no. If you buy something from AliExpress, that you have to expect that's how it's going to perform, So you buy something direct from Video Game Perfection, even one of their refurbished ones, that's going to get you a pretty good, or as good as you can get, and it's going to last a long time. Right. I have these marked originals. Yeah, these are all the braided cables. And all right, we got all the pads, these terrible screws. I'm gonna save these cases, and I don't even know why. I just think they're hilarious. With the originals marked original. All kidding aside, I reuse these little bags all the time. Great for sorting stuff. Okay, Frank noticed that in console modding videos, anti-static measures are less often taken compared to the PC community. What do I think about that? Well, I have a very strong opinion and also kind of a, well, you'll see. So my strong opinion is that if you're working on any electronics that are important to you, you should take all of the necessary precautions you can. I'm a grumpy old man who's been doing this forever, so I have a metal table. So when you see me touch electronics, you'll often hear, more than see, you'll hear the thumping of me grounding myself before I touch it. Now that is absolutely not in any way a complete replacement for a grounding strap, but for the work that I do, and for how long I've been doing it, how it's just second nature, it's good enough. It's not going to kill my equipment, I think. It's been decades that I've been working on RetroRGB, and I don't think anything's ever died from static electricity, but decades, over a decade. But you're correct in that professional modders should absolutely have an anti-static pad and an anti-static wristband on when they're doing these. And, if you're paying somebody to work on your stuff, that should absolutely be part of the budget that they make for getting this. Calling themselves a pro basically means you're also getting pro equipment involved. So for your own personal modding, it's up to you. If you told me you had like a Sega CDX and you were thinking about doing one of the cool mods to that, I would absolutely say, hey, you should think about getting as much protection as possible. But if you're just replacing a Super Nintendo controller shell, touching metal should be fine. The more electronics, the more things that could go wrong with it is another kind of good way to think about it. Morgoth said they've had terrible luck buying replacement membranes for stock SNES controllers. Do I have a recommendation for just membranes? Yeah, when these J&Ts come on sale, they should be excellent. I'm going to do some more testing, but the very basic testing you saw me all do here shows that they're much better than the cheap ones you get off of AliExpress. And I don't know if I would say they hold up to stock yet. I think I would really need to put some more time into them. But that's going to be the next stream in a couple of weeks, I think. So keep your eyes open for that. But also, I have to ask: do the cheap membranes, do those affect the buttons at all? These face buttons? Because I don't ever remember there being a big deal. Or it was like very blatant. Like they didn't work from day one type of thing, or didn't work as well at least. It was always pretty blatant if there was going to be a difference. But yeah, I'm not really sure. That said, we did just see the triggers get weird, but I don't have the posts. So it's really hard to tell about that. What do I think about purchasing a new in-box 27-inch Philips CRT for $450? Seller is a reputable CRT servicer in the area who will open and test the CRT at pickup. Well, what kind of CRT is it? Is it a Philips PC CRT monitor? Is it just a standard TV? Is it flat glass? Is it curved glass? If it's a standard 15 kilohertz consumer CRT, does it have component video inputs, or does it just have composite, or just RF? There's kind of a lot of factors involved. Also, I'm sure you already know this, but I just want to reiterate the fact that just because it's new in box doesn't mean it doesn't need servicing. The best example in the world is Game Gears. I still see people all the time spending $1,000 on a sealed Game Gear in box, and they open it up and it doesn't work because all the capacitors have leaked out inside of it. You still have to worry about that these days. Standard consumer CRT with component, and it's flat glass. So I prefer curved over flat. However, you almost never get component video inputs in curved glass. So I think that that's a pretty good deal, because you also have to remember, if that really is still new in box with component video inputs, you basically have yourself a 27-inch near RGB monitor for that price. So I think that that's a totally fair price to pay, as long as it is what it says. But, because context is key, right? I just found an FV 27-inch Sony on the side of the road, picked it up thinking like, oh, I found myself a hidden gem, and it probably needs a full weekend and a couple $100 worth of work. So I might actually be spending, I will be spending more money trying to get that working than you will on this. And even if you end up deciding to do like a full refurbish and go nuts on it, you have a brand new CRT that you'll never have to do that again. So I think for me personally, if I stumbled across the exact type of CRTs that I love, brand new in the box, I would absolutely buy it for $450. But this is my opinion. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of people say spend that money on a RetroTink instead, go get an OLED and then get a Tink 4K, but that's definitely my opinion on it. Morgoth said face buttons didn't work unless they pressed down really hard. That's terrible quality then. Algae said their SNES blew the fuse when they opened it to install the Voltar RGB mod. Not sure if it was related to static. You would hear a pop. Like if you're wearing a sweater and you touch a doorknob and you hear that sound. If you heard that, sure. But if not, it's more likely that something else caused the short, including something like you unplug the console really quick, open it up, and then touch something, and the capacitors in the console still have a charge. That's very likely that could have been what had happened. Hey, a little tidbit for anybody who is, or not a little tidbit, Easter egg, I don't know what the hell you want to call it, but a little fun thing for anybody who's listening to the stream now. I'm going to be hanging the 2 longer controllers in the background while I shoot the weekly podcast to help stretch the cables out. So if anybody's wondering why Super Nintendo controllers are hanging in the background, you all will know. All right, I think this is it. Well, thank you all for hanging out. This was a heck of a lot of fun. I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed making an ass of myself breaking those screws. I'm going to be messaging Martin from Retro Gamer Store right now to suggest he find high-quality screws to sell so people don't make the same mistake I did. But thank you all for hanging out. This was a blast. I'll be following up at some point. Actually, you know what I think is a good idea? I'm going to take these controllers after I finish them up and use them to play some SNES or NES to SNES conversions. I could do Infidelity's Mega Man 6, and Rumblemans is working on another one that I think I'd like to try. So that's the plan for the follow-up stream whenever I get a chance to. So thank you all so much.